Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, and this is the start of the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. In accordance with Governor Baker's recent order reducing the number of individuals allowed to congregate at any time to 10 due to the spike in COVID-19 cases, this evening's meeting is being held remotely with reasonable access being afforded via live stream courtesy of Whitman Hanson Cable Access Television. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll be going into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiation with non-union personnel pursuant to Mass General Laws C30A 21A2. And we will return in open session at 6 p.m. or on the completion of executive session business, whichever comes first. Looking for a motion to go into executive session.
So moved by Matt.
Second.
Roll call. Jim.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
Wes.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. We're now in executive session. Okay, thank you. We're back. Laura, if you wouldn't mind doing the announcements, please.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Dyer, who
Oh.
volunteered to do that tonight.
I apologize. Mr. Dyer.
Good evening, Hanson. Here are this week's announcements. Monday, March 22nd is the last day to take out nomination papers for the May 15th town election. They must be returned Friday, March 26th. Please call the town clerk's office at 781-293-2772 to make an appointment to pick up nomination papers. All voters and residents who have not returned their 2021 census form is urged to do so by the town clerk. Any voter that has not returned their 2021 town census form will be placed on the inactive voter list for future elections. The Hanson Town Police Department will be hosting a blood drive on Friday, March 26th from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Log on to tinyurl.com/Hanson POLM26 to make an appointment for Friday the 26th, and then log on to tinyurl Hanson POL27 to make an appointment on March 27th from 8 a.m. to 2:30. Walk-ins will be taken at this time, I guess, if time allows. And it's almost cleanup green-up time. For the time of year when Green Hanson organizes the volunteer cleanup of Hanson streets. It's a great opportunity to get the whole family involved. This can be a learning experience when providing us with a healthier and cleaner town. In order to maintain COVID protocols, we're extending it once again to a 2-week time frame, April 10th through the 24th. Sorry, it was 2 separate lines here. So the cleanup green-up will be extended for a 2-week time, April 10th through the 24th. For more information, check out the Green Hanson Facebook page at greenhanson@gmail.com. The volunteers are needed at the following committees: the Facebook Upkeep Committee, the Conservation Commission, Associate Members, Cultural Council, Disabilities, Highway Building Committee, Historical Commission, Memorial Day Patriotic Observance, and Memorial Field Trustees. Applications for appointments and more information on the committees are available at the town website at hanson-ma.gov. And the upcoming meetings for the Board of Selectmen will be on March 23rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. and also on April 6th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So we have a lot of work to do tonight. So if all I ask is that the board can just, if someone's speaking tonight, just say everything and then hold the questions to the end if you can. And then I'll look at the board. If you guys have a question, just put your hand up just so we can try to be as efficient as possible. So first, under new business, Town Council Kate Federoff, discussion on retail cannabis delivery to residents located outside the town of Hanson. Hi, Kate.
Hi guys, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. I am here tonight to discuss delivery because yet again, we have another new use on marijuana. And so delivery has two components. There are two separate licensures now from the CCC. One is called a courier license and one is called the delivery operator license. The difference between those is very significant. So the courier is a delivery company that just picks up the marijuana from a marijuana retailer and delivers to a consumer at their house. They're actually just providing the transportation. So there's, they don't purchase the marijuana from the retailer and then the customer pays them. They just deliver it, sort of like, you can liken it to like Grubhub. So they have, you pick up, you order your meal from Burger King and it gets delivered to your house by a driver. That's what a courier looks like. Delivery operator, on the other hand, is a little bit different. So they can pick up marijuana from any marijuana establishment. So the cultivators, where they're just growing the marijuana, the manufacturers that are converting the marijuana to other kinds of products, and a retailer. So they can pick up marijuana in any form, and then they can relabel that marijuana as their own. So they do more than picking up. They buy the marijuana, make it their own product, and then deliver it and sell it to the consumer. So that's one where you would, if you were to allow in Hanson, you would get both retail sales, local tax, which is 3%, and also community impact fee payments. The courier is less of a significant business, I would say, and they're just delivering the marijuana. So in likelihood, the host community agreements are going to be much less rich than it is for the marijuana establishments because they're getting their, whatever, $10 or whatever it is to deliver marijuana. I actually don't know what the delivery fee is, but let's just assume it's $10, $20, something like that. So their margin is much less, whereas the operator has the ability to make significant margin, because if you're buying flower or bud or whatever from the cultivator, you know, it's just like the same profit margin as a retailer would make. So those are some opportunities for new uses in the town. And the question is, would the town Board of Selectmen like to refer the matter to the planning board for hearing to determine whether or not they could come up with a zoning bylaw amendment for the town meeting? Operator delivery licenses are going to be rolling out quite soon. I think applications are being taken in, I think, the beginning of April with the CCC. And so if you want to react to that, and if you want to try to capture some of that market, now's the time to do it. Furthermore, it's, you know, for those folks who are worried really about the impact of the retail establishment in town being a brick and mortar shop where people would drive to the facility, wait outside and queue up like we were seeing those long queues. That doesn't exist here, obviously, because it's all the purchasing and all of that stuff is done online, and it's just the, you know, like Amazon vans that deliver the product.
So Kate, what would be the difference in revenue to the town of Hanson between delivery and, let's say, the manufacturing?
So it's much more significant. On the delivery operator license, they're selling the product on retail. So the local it's like an excise tax that I think you guys accepted. It's 64N Section 3 allows you to get 3%. So your current HCA with Impressed gives you 3% in community impact payment. If you were to negotiate an HCA with a delivery operator, you have the ability to get 3% in community impact payment, same as your current HCA, plus 3% in sales tax. So it's 6%. So it's double the revenue. And it depends upon what they sell, you know, but it's the double the revenue.
So in essence, we would be looking at an addendum to our existing agreement, and that would have to pass at town meeting.
So what needs to pass at town meeting? Remember, the Board of Selectmen has complete authority to execute HCAs. What needs to happen is at town meeting is a zoning bylaw amendment. One could argue that the existing bylaw has the possibility to allow for delivery, but you know what we've said is it's important for the town to give their opinion on what's acceptable for the town. And clearly this wasn't contemplated as a use when that bylaw was drafted. So we'd like to throw it back to the legislative body, which is the town meeting. So it would be a zoning bylaw amendment. It's actually quite an easy amendment. It's just the definition section of marijuana. And it's a 2/3 vote.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Kate? Go ahead, Laura.
Ballot question, Kate, or just 2/3 at town meeting?
Nope, it's not a ballot question. To approve a use, it's just 2/3 at town meeting.
Okay, and we don't think that our previous votes on retail marijuana preclude us from allowing this?
No, and as a matter of sheer fact, when they defined these uses, they specifically said this is a separate use from marijuana retail. Even though they're essentially doing a retail sales, it's different than a marijuana retailer as defined in the regs. And they call it out specifically. So for those towns that prohibit and those towns that capped retailers, the cap and the prohibition doesn't apply.
Okay, because it's not a brick and mortar storefront, customers coming in type of situation.
That's exactly right.
All right, thanks, Kate.
Any more questions for Kate?
I just have a comment. I have gotten a lot. Is it okay for me to talk?
Go ahead.
I've had a lot of comments, a lot of calls on this. So it might be a good thing to cap the number of delivery services in town, or at least think about it, because I have gotten a lot of inquiries and they do want to have a brick and mortar place where they're gonna like set up office and then deploy the cars from there. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this.
That's actually a really good point, Deb. When I meant brick and mortar, it was brick and mortar retail. They do need a facility to dispatch, and they have, because these guys have to wear body cameras and have GPS tracking and all of these things. So they will need sort of an office to house it. And let's be clear too, on the delivery operator, they can store the marijuana in their facility. So they can buy the marijuana, relabel it, and then store it in their facility until they resell it. So the question I don't know, and probably is more appropriate for the planning board to address, is in that area where we allow marijuana establishments other than retailers that we prohibited, I don't know really what the opportunity is in terms of space. So, I mean, a cap, sure, you could add that, but it might not be necessary because it might be capped out anyway because of the physical constraints of that area.
Kate, what's the motion look like, Kate?
A motion would be motion to refer marijuana delivery to the planning board for the development of a zoning bylaw.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Jim?
I'm going to say nay.
Wes,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a good night.
You too. Next up on the agenda, Veteran Agent Tim White, considering designating Hanson as a Purple Heart community and to discuss Memorial Day exercises. Mr. White, go ahead, sir.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening to the Board of Selectmen. I wanted to discuss making the town of Hanson a Purple Heart community. I've been working with the commander of the VFW from Halifax to learn more about this. Some of you may know I also work in Rockland. When you drive into Rockland, you'll see the signs that this is a Purple Heart community. So I learned more about it with the commander of the VFW, and I have a kind of a draft proclamation that I'll show into the camera in a second. But what I'm asking the selectmen is, in approving the Purple Heart community, what you're doing is recognizing August 7th as a nationally recognized Purple Heart Day. In August 7th, 1782, the Purple Heart was the oldest American military decoration and was created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart with the word merit sewn upon it. And that was started on August 7th, 1782 in Newburgh, New York by General George Washington. Then later it was reestablished as the Purple Heart on February 22nd, 1932 by General Douglas MacArthur. So ultimately what this means to the town is, we end up recognizing the dedication and the service of those who have paid a dear price, and they're in the order of the Purple Heart. And then, we could do various things from a town perspective to recognize August 7th, whether it's flying flags or trying to present somebody maybe through the town website of, one of the citizens, one of the veterans that has been awarded the Purple Heart, and, something like that. So I just wanted to present that. As far as what has to happen is this draft proclamation that I'll show you. I'll put it up into the camera just so that you can see. And it's kind of tough to see but down on the bottom, it's just a one-page proclamation draft. And down on the bottom, the chairperson of the selectmen would sign, or all selectmen would sign. This would get packaged and forwarded to the Military Order of the Purple Heart. There's a state commander that receives all of these applications. His name is Tim Willett, and then he packages from the state to Washington, D.C. And once it's approved, at some point down the road, somebody from the Military Order of the Purple Heart would present an official proclamation to the selectmen at one of these meetings, and then we would be recognized as a Purple Heart community. I don't know, do you want me to just go on about Memorial Day before questions?
Let's just stop right there. Does anybody have any questions for Tim regarding the Purple Heart? Go ahead, Laura.
I don't really have a question. I just want to thank you, Tim, as usual, for bringing something like this forward. I think Pembroke just got this, and as you said, Rockland's got it, and I think it's just the right thing to do. Did we need a motion, Kenny, before we have Tim go on to the Memorial Day discussion?
Yes. Looking for a motion to consider designating Hanson as a Purple Heart community.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Matt.
Aye.
Jim.
Absolutely.
Wes.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Go ahead, Tim.
All right, very good. Thank you. As far as Memorial Day observation, I normally start preparing 2.5 months in advance And last year was very difficult, and this year is going to match last year in the difficult nature of with the pandemic in preparing for Memorial Day. So I'm not sure what the governor's restrictions will be as we move forward. Things look like they're progressing well and doing well, and more people are getting vaccinated. But at the same time, I hear about all these variants, and there's still a lot of concern. And I've talked to a couple of towns. So in Hanover, they already came out and said they are not going to do a parade. They will do like a ceremony similar to what we did last year. They film it and then they put it on their local community channel. And I think they filmed it ahead of Memorial Day so that they could put the production on during Memorial Day. This year, I think they're doing the same thing. In speaking in Rockland, they have a Veterans Allied Council. And I brought it up to them the other day as to what, gauge their initial thoughts, and their, kind of quick judgment was, we are not going to do a parade as well. They feel it's going to be, subdued. They're going to recognize Memorial Day, and it'll be, maybe a static ceremony, but it's not going to be in the form of a parade. So I just wanted to present that to you and let you know, what some of the other communities are thinking. The information from the state is changing as we go through different phases, or we get into a phase and 2 weeks later they revert, what number phase you're in. And there's contracts that get put in place, and, we spend a little bit of money for different groups to join a parade. So, just hearing that, I think I was going to proceed, with that in mind, that most likely there's not going to be a parade, but I wanted to bring that to your attention, maybe gauge some thought and discussion about it as to how everybody feels about Memorial Day. I have 2.5 months to prepare for it, and obviously we're going to have changes going forth. Week to week, or maybe every other week, we're going to hear new information. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, so that there's no grand surprise as we get closer to the date.
So Tim, I would go with your discretion. So, whatever you think and whatever you need from this board to support you on anything that you decide for Memorial Day is fine with me. It's totally fine. All right. Does anybody else have any questions on that? Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, Tim, same here. You do an excellent job. We obviously don't want to put, vulnerable population of veterans, in harm's way by trying to celebrate them. That would seem to be a little hypocritical. So I agree with that. I think last year was quite lovely what you were able to do. I don't know if that's possible to duplicate that. I know it's not everything, but it's something. And that was to work with cable to put on that little celebration. And I think you had asked for people to send in some photos of loved ones that you included in a lovely little montage. So I don't, and again, I don't want to add to your plate, but I'll defer to you. But I think that worked well for the interim.
Very good. Very good.
Wes.
And Tim, just know Joanne and I are available if you need us again this year.
Oh, great. Great. Thank you.
Okay, Tim, thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you all for everything. Appreciate it.
Stay
Okay,
safe.
Next up, Whitman Hanson Regional School District Superintendent Jeff Steinmanek, and a good portion of the school committee is here. Mr. Steinmanek.
Hi, sir. Hi, Mr. Mitchell and members of the Board of Selectmen. Thanks for inviting us here to kind of give you a little brief overview of what's been going on recently at our action-packed school committee meetings. So first and foremost, our kids are coming back to full-time instruction in person on April 5th. So you should see more kids out and about in school and not in the hybrid mode. So April 5th is our date. We are returning grades 1 through 12 our pre-K and K have already been in. So that's good news. Our teachers are in the process of getting vaccinated, and I want to give a huge shout out to both fire departments, Chief Thompson from Hanson and Chief Greno from Whitman. We've worked really well during this whole pandemic, and they've tried to prioritize the vaccination process for our teachers to no avail. They haven't been able to receive it, but I just want the board to really know that Jerry and Timmy have been working really well with me and my folks to get our teachers vaccinated so that we're all safe. Just a brief overview of where we're at financially and budgetarily. At tomorrow night's school committee meeting, I'm going to ask the board to certify a budget so they can send it off to you folks for town meeting. As you know, that certification probably will begin more discussion on where we're at in the budget. But just to give you a brief overview, last year we certified our budget at $55,320,238, and I'm looking for an increase of $2,252,341, or a 4% increase in the school budget. That's including really level services, what I call level services plus budget. The level services are salary lines, PCA pension, health insurance, transportation, custodial services, utilities, gas, electric. Our water bill still to be determined. As you know, we're still in negotiations over our water bill and our trash. The additions, the plus pieces, are bringing back a science teacher that was cut in 2018, 2019. We're really focusing in on intervention and for regression for COVID. That's about a $375,000 expense. Special education level services. And in addition, and we're trying to add 3 other special education programs to the tune of $570,000. And you might not know, but over the past few years, we've cut our licensure agreement or our Chromebook refresh for the district. Representative Cutler was able to secure some money from the state for some Chromebooks this year in COVID times for remote learning. But we still need to get on a pattern of refreshing our Chromebooks and making sure that we have adequate technology for our students. So really briefly, we're looking at a 2.252,341 increase of the budget, which is about a 4% increase over last year, to make sure that our students can come back in September, hopefully in person, and getting us back to some sort of normalcy. And again, like I said, tomorrow I will be asking the committee to certify that number to get it out to the towns. And in the history that I've had in 12 years here, I know that's the beginning discussion of what the towns can actually allocate from both Whitman and Hanson, and what the school budget will actually end up at.
Great. Any questions from the board for Mr. Samanak? Not seeing any.
That's awesome.
I don't know if that's good, Joe.
Well, but we're going to be live tomorrow. So if folks can come in, I mean, if members of the board or any other elected official or anybody wants to come in, we have a 25-person capacity, but if people need to be there, and I'd love to hear from Selectmen or Mr. Stanbrook, if need be, where the towns are sitting. And I know Hanson has some difficulty. We know that on the school board. We know that in the district. We knew that coming into this year. So any more input tomorrow to our members would be appreciated, to let them know where Hanson stands.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you and the school committee for taking time out of your evening to talk to us in the town of Hanson. So we appreciate it.
And we appreciate you folks. Take good care.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Is Tom, I don't see Tom yet. Tom's not with us, is he? Yep, I see Tom now. Hey, the real Mr. Hickey, how are you, sir?
Making an entrance. Hi, Kenny. Hi, everyone. What about the other Hickey?
Yeah,
Ouch.
him too.
The real Mr. Hickey, really?
So South Shore
Yeah,
Road,
I'm here, Tom.
That's right.
let me just read what we got on the agenda here for Tom. South Shore Road Technical High School Superintendent Tom Hickey, FY22 budget and town meeting article. Take it away, Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, everybody. I hope you might have been able to spend just a few minutes seeing some of the resources I sent. It might make the difference between me just hitting some of the highlights, and I'd be happy to answer. I prefer to keep the comments to a minimum and field your questions. So I'm taking some of your time tonight to talk about two things. The debt authorization article might take a little bit longer, but the agenda also talks about the fiscal 22 budget. So in a nutshell, we have an overall budget increase that's been proposed and certified that was a 1.89% increase. Hanson's share for fiscal 22, coupled with a 4-student increase, would go up $92,657. That's an 8.16% assessment increase, which I think to a large extent is driven by the slight uptick in enrollment. So the total assessment amount is $1,228,077. There are Sr2 funds. I'm sure you've been aware of CARES Act information, and DESE came out with some programming information, some grant programming information. And Sr2 will allow municipalities to help offset some of the costs involved with increased minimum local contribution. The program came out in February. It's not official yet. I would expect that this is something that would become a reality later in the calendar year, but we've done some calculations, and if that were to go to plan, the increase for Hansen would probably be able to be reduced by up to about $24,457. So the assessment number that our school committee certified would come to spring town meeting, and we would anticipate that once we were approved for those Sr2 funds, we would make an adjustment using those funds to help offset the increase. So I guess that's kind of the budget snapshot. If I could address any questions on that or go a little deeper somewhere, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Does anybody have any questions on the budget? South Shore? No, go ahead, Tom.
Thanks, Kenny. I'd also just like to introduce Chris Amico, who is your representative to our regional school committee, who just jumped on the call here. So the topic that, hey Chris, the topic that'll take a little more time to unpack is the debt authorization article. So we're bringing this article to all 8 of our communities, and for several years we've had great opportunities to talk with our towns about the need for us to maintain our building, as well as deal with the issue that we have a real space crunch. We've done a lot of long-range capital forecasting. And in 2018, we developed a facilities master plan that, with the help of an engineering firm, helped us identify and prioritize projects that we need to do. South Shore is the 2nd oldest regional vocational school in the state. Most folks who walk through it wouldn't know that, which is a great sign. It doesn't help us with MSBA, but it's a nice sign in between all those times that MSBA has told us no. So we try to maintain the building. And what we've been talking about in the last couple of years is that we're now reaching the point where there are some infrastructure projects that we need to take on, but that are too expensive to expect our towns to absorb in a single budget year. So for instance, one project would be the replacement of a 30-year-old roof that we would estimate to be $1.8 million. We would not bring in a future budget year a capital line of $1.8 million and carve that up amongst the towns. It would be too drastic for the assessments, and we would end up hurting the operating side of the budget. So we've come to the conclusion that with a sound rationale and based on some data, we hope to go to our 8 towns to get their support, to give us the authorization to take on some borrowing for a series of projects that we've outlined. Our plan is to phase in a series of projects over a 5-year period, and nothing that I'm talking about now has any impact on fiscal 22. So our hope at our most aggressive would be starting in fiscal 23, we would start and phase in a series of projects from fiscal 23 through 27. And we would borrow money if this is all predicated on the idea that MSBA does not invite us into a program. We have applied every year since 2015. We are not looking for a new building. We're looking for a renovation and maybe up to 40,000 square feet of space. We cannot achieve that without MSBA support, period, full stop. but we can find a strategic phased-in way of working on some of the infrastructure projects. And what I've been saying to our school committee and to our other member towns is that were MSBA to invite us in, whatever plan I sketch out here or that I've sent to you, that would all be put on hold until we can figure out how MSBA can help subsidize these costs. But to wait for MSBA and not address these matters, it would also not be in the best long-term interest of the building. So if we borrow money, we're looking at a plan. We're starting to talk to our financial advisors at Unibank, and we're looking at a potential plan where we would take out bond anticipation notes, which is our interest-only bonds for the first 2 years of this 5 or 6 year phase-in, and then we'd roll it into a bond, and then in year 3, and then in years 4 and 5, we would continue with the phasing in of projects, and we would borrow money, and then in year 6, in fiscal 28, we would bond it again. Let's boil it all down. I told you what it was about. Now, what would it cost Hanson? Hanson's share of any debt that we take on as part of this project, debt that gets authorized in this fiscal year, would be 13.65% of the total. So anytime you hear me blabbing on about numbers, $1 million for this, whatever, interest, no interest, Hanson's share would be 13.65%. Now, where we stand in our fiscal 22 budget, I feel very good about it. It's a lean budget. It's a lean operating budget because we moved a lot of dollars into capital. That budget is carrying about $900,000 in capital in order to fund what will probably be our last signature capital project, and that's to replace some windows in our 1992 portion of the building. And that project's around $700,000. So for perspective, Hanson's share of that capital number, the one that's in this fiscal 22 budget, is about $122,000. So when I've talked to our capital project subcommittee, when I've talked to our school committee, I've tried to point out that we're on a pretty aggressive pace where capital is taking up an increasing amount of the budget. And by bonding some money, we will actually see a reduction in the capital line, and we'll see dollars shift over to debt. So for instance, in this fiscal 22 budget, Hanson, there is no debt. We have no debt on the books. So the debt service part of an assessment is 0, and the capital line is about $122,000. Now it's our job every year, no matter what plan we might have, we must look at it with a sober eye year to year. And we're not obligated to borrow it all at once. We don't want to do that. And we will certainly reassess, because we've got to bring our towns, as you know, we only bring one number to the table every spring. And that number, that assessment line in the warrant, where you see our school name and the amount, that amount is not just operating, it's operating, any debt if we have it, capital, transportation, it's all baked into one. So I know full well that if we bring a number that's too high because maybe we've done too much borrowing or we haven't been listening carefully to what our towns can handle, then the town's reaction could be that's too much, and we would have to take a close look at the operating side. So by going to our towns once with a bundle of ideas phased in over multiple years, we hope we can get permission once and then give us the tools to then try to phase these projects in. So for Hanson, one of the slides that I sent you, and I'll just quote you just some specific numbers here. In the first year of this plan, Hanson's share would be a little over 33,000. So I keep 122 as kind of like my baseline. That's what we're asking you for capital. Those capital numbers wouldn't be, if we don't have some borrowing capacity, the capital numbers would probably stay where they are, or maybe they'd increase. So in year 1, the debt share for Hanson would be about 33,000. And in year 2, it would be about 47,000. That's interest only payments. And then by the 3rd year, by fiscal 25, we'd see a number around 126,000. We're trying to be conservative. We're using high interest rate numbers, 3.5% interest. We're anticipating paying back these bonds on equal principal. There are some other ways you can structure the debt to make it a little bit lower. But we don't want to use, I mean, the market right now for municipal borrowing is very low, certainly lower than 3.5%, but we don't want to use those teaser numbers because whether there's inflation down the road or anything else, we want to use a number that has a little more longevity if we're phasing in the borrowing. So this is a plan to take care of the school, to add a little space. The total amount that you're going to see in the warrant article is 18.9 million. And that number has to be published because that's the full capacity that we're looking for. But of course, the regional agreement speaks to how the debt is carved up, and that's where I'm getting 13.65%. And that is based on a 3-year look back on enrollment. So I'd be happy to stop there, Mr. Chairman, and see if I can maybe clarify or provide a little more detail on anything I might have said or not said.
What's the 13.5% of the 18 million, Tom?
If I were to calculate that.
That's right. It doesn't have to be exact.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't have to be exact. I'm just trying to get an idea.
Sure. In the first year of this plan, fiscal 23, our idea is we would borrow about $7 million. Hanson's share of that interest only is $33,000. And that is, so I would envision a fiscal 23, imagine, a fiscal 23 budget proposal where we've gone out and borrowed that money. Hanson's debt column, when we send you those charts that break down the assessments, Hanson's debt column would have 33,000. Their capital line would be lower because we will be feeding we'll be feeding all of the capital projects that we're looking to put into the queue. But just to give you the math behind it, that's about 33,000. In fiscal 24, we'd borrow a little bit more. We'd pay interest only in the second year, and that number would go to about 47,000. Again, that's all part of what we would need to bring you. And then by year 3, when we take those 2 years of bond anticipation notes, we would borrow our sketches in the year 3. If you see those slides, we'd add another $1 million of borrowing, and then we'd go to bond about $11 million. And that in year 3, we would see a debt service line of about 126,000. The high watermark of the borrowing would happen in about fiscal 28. But again, we're not obligated to borrow it, and what we're saying is we don't have a need to borrow it all at once, but we want to have the capacity to begin to follow a design, procure, and construction process that has minimal delays. But with, what I've been saying to our school committee and our other communities is that when I look at the numbers, I look at fiscal 27 and 28 as being the point where, okay, we're about to roll on, take on a second bond or get into a second wave of anticipation notes. It's absolutely critical that we know where our town's capacity is. So this may be one request this spring for the authorization, but this is going to be a continual conversation, because if something happens in our region where more expansive borrowing can't happen, then we have to adjust like everybody, right? You adjust your expectations, maybe you delay or you scale back the idea. But we want to put forward an idea that has a roadmap so that by the end, if in the next 6 years we haven't been invited into MSBA, that's gonna be terrible. But we do need to try to take matters into our own hands, but not be overly aggressive. Fix what we need to, address our priority needs first, and then still have the responsibility of bringing our 8 towns an affordable number every year.
How many towns out of the 8 do you need to pass this at town meeting for this to move forward? What is the agreement say?
Under state law, we would need all 8 towns. And a town has 2 options, one which I generally wouldn't advise, but one option is after our school committee votes officially to authorize this debt, it starts a 60-day clock ticking. And I've asked our committee to deliberately delay this vote because we have town meetings that run from Situate is April 12th, Abington and Cohasset are May 24th. We don't want to, because if we took a premature vote in February, we would be forcing all 8 of our communities to either let the 60-day clock run out, and if a town takes no action, Kenny, it means it's an affirmative. So a town could take no action, but I wouldn't advise that. You want to give people the chance to weigh in on this stuff. So instead, we looked at where are our towns projecting their town meetings, and fortunately it falls within a 60-day window. So we would probably officially vote this at the end of March or very early April, and then we would send, the law says you send a letter within 7 days of the vote to the boards of selectmen, but from the time of the vote, there's a 60-day window. So it is convenient, and with the help of John and his counterparts in our other communities, by telegraphing this early, knowing how everyone's warrant building process takes time, placeholder, explanation, and eventual recommendation, it'll be anticlimactic when our school committee votes on this. The matter will have at least already been, the awareness will have been raised. It'll have a placeholder in the warrant. But what will happen is we'll take that vote and then send an official letter. Again, everyone should already know about it, but it will follow the law. And then within that 60-day window after our vote, we should be able to capture all 8 of our communities. So if one community takes action at a town meeting and there is not a majority vote in favor, then the matter stops. So we wouldn't have the ability to take on any borrowing.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Tom? Jim? I can't tell you.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Hey,
No,
Jim.
go ahead.
Well, Mr. Chair, you asked the question, and Tom, forgive me if I got the numbers wrong. You said $18 million for the entire project?
Yeah, 18,960,537.
Okay, so if I did the math correctly, and John might be able to help me on this, it would cost Hanson roughly $2.4 million on the whole project. That would be the 13% share. Because I think you mentioned at the beginning of this, you mentioned the roof, which is 30 years old and obviously needs to be replaced, that it was $1.8 million. So I had figured Hanson cost would be about $250,000, $248,000. John, I don't know if you did the numbers.
Yep, you're right, Jim.
Honestly, Tom, at this point.
That sounds right.
At this point, Tom, yeah, Hanson needs a bottom line of, what it's going to cost. Obviously, the school needs a roof, and the way I figured it, it's, Hanson's portion is about $248,000. That's, all as we hear is numbers. So
Yes.
I wanted to get across what the actual number was going to be.
Yeah, so that 13.65%, Jim, whenever you want to crunch those numbers, we are anticipating 20-year bonds for this. So for the first, again, if we take this to plan, the first 2 years would be interest only. And then we would start the first 20-year bond in fiscal 25. And then, again, depending on what the interest rate is, we're using about a 3.5% interest rate as we do our calculations. So one of the slides on the presentation that I sent along will unpack that from fiscal 23 through 28, showing exactly what Hanson's share would be under the conditions of 3.5%, using 3.5%, and phasing in the borrowing for the reasons that are laid out. The roof would be year 1. We have some original ventilation, and I won't go through the whole list of items, but certainly I could speak to those. But yes, Jim, I think you could look to the presentation and hopefully find the numbers that would matter. And at the end of the day, these numbers have to fit within an annual assessment. And it's my anticipation that in the short term for fiscal 23 and 24, I would be hard pressed to think that if we're doing borrowing only for at least the next 2 years, I would expect that the combination of capital and debt would be lower because we'll have the borrowing. But for what you can hold on to right now, those numbers are numbers that we would be working with our community, saying that when the bond rolls on, we'll be doing principal and interest payments. It'll be higher, but it will take 3 years to reach the current level of capital spending that we have slated for Hanson, using fiscal 22 as my baseline.
Okay. So Tom, you were just,
Thanks, Tom.
Sure thing.
you were just looking to update the board and let us know what you wanted to get done over there, correct?
That's right, Kenny. At some point, as a town meeting warrant article, recommendations coming from Finance Committee and Selectmen are obviously very important, and it's very important to me that the respective boards in our towns know what we're looking for, and especially the 18.9. I mean, there's debt fatigue goodness. And,
Yeah.
you know, more numbers that end in the word millions, and there's only so much capacity that someone can have to hold fake numbers. You know, what is it really going to mean? But it's very important to be able to say, yes, we have to, just like with an MSBA project, you've got to go to the warrant and ask for the full amount and then back out the reimbursement. So we have to come for the full amount, but not to confuse the fact that within that amount, there's a share for Hanson, and there's a plan to match with that. And we can provide any granular detail. And that includes if we were to go back and take this idea we have of a 6-year phase in level principal payments and restructure it looking at level debt payments, which would spread out more. There'd be more interest, but the numbers would be lower. The good news is, I guess the good news is that the authorization simply gives us the permission to have those resources. We still have to find a way to make every fiscal year affordable.
Okay, last question. Would you or Chris be available at town meeting to explain this, or if anybody had any questions or anything?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The challenge, the challenge. If it's kind of
You're
funny.
gonna have 2 in 1 night is the challenge.
You tell me when you're having yours. I call it Super Monday. I think we have 5. We have in a normal non-pandemic year, we have 5 towns who seem to have their town meetings on the first Monday of May. But this is the year that we'll be going into the bullpen, so there will be definitely somebody there, and I certainly want to try to coordinate being in our especially in our communities that have a higher population share to be able to explain it. So yes, I would not put this on the board or anyone up on the stage to have to unpack this to residents.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate you coming to us, considering this is 2023 budget. So that we do appreciate.
No worries.
Okay, take care. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay, next up, review May 2021 special and annual town meeting submitted warrant articles. Mr. Stanbrook, you waiting patiently for this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the due date was Friday, the 5th of March for the warrant articles. In the packet in your Dropbox, I have a list of them all. I'll have the wording of the draft wording of all of them by the meeting next week. So I was just going to run down what the subject matter of them all, and just real quickly, just to talk about each one, if that's okay. But I'll try to move quickly because I know we're pushing on here. But so the special town meeting, the first article would be any unpaid bills. That's a standard article we have every year. Article 2 would be fiscal year 21 budget transfers, any funds, any transfers we need to have go back and forth, either the general fund budget or the water budget or any budget at all, actually. Article 3, an article was submitted by the police, police chief for tasers replacement. Again, I'm saying what's been submitted. I'm not saying we're funding them or anything like that. This is just what was submitted. And we could go over that next week of what we have money to actually pay for. Article 4, police would be 12 desktops and laptop computers at the police station. Again, another article, Article 5 would be highway would be for gravel for private ways. Again, that's a standard one here. Highway, again, Article 6 is a 72-inch deck power mower purchase. Article 7 is for highway again would be Poor Meadow Brook guardrails. Article 8 it's on your list, but that's going to be pulled off, so I'm going to skip over it. Article 9 would be to change a Camp Kawani article wording for electrical work from a past town meeting, and change the wording to include wiring, light fixtures, and security system. The wording of the original article was narrow, and they're asking to broaden the wording. Article 10 would be the treasurer collector would ask for a 5-year postage meter contract under Chapter 30B, the Uniform Procurement Law. Contracts can only be for 3 years unless town meeting votes a longer term. She is asking that we vote a 5-year postage meter contract term so we can get a better deal and get more stable pricing, a better pricing. Then Article 11 would be any wage and personnel bylaw amendments. So that's where we are right now on the special town meeting. The annual town meeting would be the Article 1 would be the standard annual town report acceptance. Article 2 would be the compensating balance agreement authorization for fiscal year 22. Just to put this in your ear for discussion perhaps next week is that the treasurer collector doesn't use compensating balances anymore and hasn't for years. So it's this would authorize someone to do it, but we don't do it. So it might be worth it to pull it off. It seems like it's been a constant Article 2 here for many years. Something to think about when we don't do it anymore. Perhaps we could pull it and streamline. Article 3, the treasurer collector's tax title account transfer. Again, that's always a standard article here in town, and this year we don't need that money. They have enough money to do the tax title taking, so that could easily be pulled. Article 4, standard article here, is to fix the elected officials' compensations for the year, for fiscal year 22. The two elected officials are the town clerk and the tree warden. I'm sorry. There'll be a vote in May to make the tree warden be an appointed official as opposed to an elected official. So in going further, if that were to pass, there'd only be one elected official that article would handle. Article 5 is the standard budget, FY22 annual budget for every fund other than recreation, the transfer station, and community preservation. Article 6 is an annual budget for the recreation enterprise. Article 7 is the annual budget for the solid waste enterprise or the transfer station. Article 8 would be the community preservation budget for fiscal year 22. Article 9 would be the 5-year capital improvement plan adoption, again by bylaw. Article 10 would be any capital improvement programs for the town and the Hanson schools. Article 11 would be regional district capital improvement programs. And they've recently sent 2 over articles that they'd like to put in would be a phone replacement system and a fire panel at the high school and a phone replacement system at the high school. Whether we can fund them is another discussion, but perhaps next week. Article 12 would be an article for the community preservation perimeter trail grant match. That would be a capital article. Article 13, again, community preservation, would be the Hanson Middle School field design. Again, these are placeholders right now. They need to be fleshed out a little bit more before we go further. Article 14 is to accept the Chapter 90 funds. That's just, again, a perfunctory article every year to accept the money that the state will be giving us. Article 15, revolving fund limit authorizations for fiscal 22. We may not have to do that article anymore because if there are no changes, we've put it in the bylaw that the articles, that's what our revolving fund limits will be. So if there are no changes, we may be able to pull that and again, do some streamlining. Article 16 would be the South Shore Regional Voc School District Debt Authorization Vote. That's what Mr. Hickey was just talking about earlier. Article 17 would be to transfer the care and control of the Webster Billings parcel from the Board of Selectmen to the Concom. Again, that's a parcel that they've put in to kind of put in the Chapter 97 of the Constitution. That gives it under the control of the Concom of that particular land, and they have reasons for doing that. Article 18, the same thing with a Brook Street parcel, transfer that care and control from Board of Selectmen to the Concom. Article 19 would be Green Hanson's Community Energy Aggregation Authorization. That was on last year and it ended up getting pulled. And then I think we talked about it in the fall, but I think it got pulled again and we're back with that again this year. Article 20 would be the Planning Board, the FEMA floodplain mapping changes. They've changed the mapping, the FEMA floodplain map, and we have to adopt the changes to it. Article 21 would be any zoning book, again with planning, and it would be the zoning book updating. Article 22 would be the Proposition 2.5 override vote, and Article 23 would be to set the ballot box vote for officers and any ballot questions. And one question that that we came up earlier about the marijuana bylaw. I don't have that on the list here. I didn't know what you wanted to do. If you wanted me to add that as a placeholder to about the marijuana delivery. I have a placeholder article I could put on and we could discuss next week, or if you don't think it's too soon, I can hold off.
I would definitely put a placeholder, John. We can still discuss it next week, but I would definitely put a placeholder on there for the delivery. Does anybody have any questions for John on those? Go ahead, man.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Two things. I think we spoke about this earlier on this winter, was going back and reanalyzing what are we doing with the $10,000 for the tree planting grant. So I know that we kind of said that we'd go back out and just make it planting just in the community of Hanson. We're not going to do the matching grant. I want to pull that. I don't want to pursue that right at the moment with the fiscal time that we're in. But in its place, if the board would be interested in this, I would like to replace it with a proposed bylaw in its spirit to protect the tree canopy of the town of Hanson for this coming Springtown meeting. A very high view level of it would be to protect the town of Hanson from developers coming into the community and clear cutting acres of land in hopes of making it easier for them to excavate. So I'd hope to pass a bylaw to be able to prevent that from just the clear cutting of lots. So that's a very high level view of it. I'll have the language or proposed language to you guys in the coming weeks. That's just one of the things that I would like to do with that. And then there was just one other thing, that there's an opportunity that was presented to me by Mr. Phil Clemens from Conservation for 0 Main Street. There's about 40 acres of land that abuts our drinking well water that will be up for sale. He had spoken to the family that will be selling it, and there's just a little bit of there's a little bit of complication there, but Mr. Clemens would like to see a placeholder for a town meeting because we only have 2 opportunities to make it. It's going through Chapter 61, and it would be first refusal for the town of Hanson. So I just want to propose those 2 articles if possible.
Matt, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, so Matt, I've also talked to Mr. Clemens about that piece of property, and I think given its proximity to our drinking water and proximity to land that we already have in conservation, it is the final piece of a jigsaw puzzle there. So I would definitely support that. My understanding is that there's also significant opportunities for seeking grant money for that, and it may not all fall to the taxpayers to pay that.
Okay, anybody else on the articles? Okay. Next up, discuss the reopening plans for our town hall. So I was talking earlier with the selectmen. I think it's time, I think we should defer to John because, John's the one that's in there, but in my opinion, I think it's time. We're sending our kids to school. I know of several town halls that are around and throughout Plymouth County that are all open. And so, John, if you want to take that away and give us your opinion on reopening town hall, that would be great.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, it's a continuum with one end being that we stay closed until maybe the state says that we are a gray community or everyone's vaccinated at town hall before we open. And that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the continuum is to say we should open now, or we should already be open, as some neighbor towns are. There's again, somewhere in the middle is different different flavors of those two ends. So, for example, Whitman has said that they will open after 3 weeks of being in the green. And when we talk about these colors, they're the Department of Public Health every Thursday, I think at 5 o'clock, classifies each town as in a color, either red, yellow, or green, and gray is the least, amount of COVID cases and exposures. So in a discussion with the department heads today, I floated out the idea of and got some feedback. We kind of coalesced around an idea of either everyone in the building is vaccinated, or when the town hall when the Department of Public Health turns the town into a green color. So I don't have the rating system in front of me. I can't remember what green is, but right now we're in yellow. I think we've been in yellow for 2 weeks. It's likely, it may happen that we turn green as early as tomorrow, but probably not. It would be at least a week. So that seemed to be the consensus of the people that were in the room, the department heads that were in the room right here today. I would like to open as soon as we possibly can, but again, I don't want to open too soon and then have someone or something happen. I think we should be open, and I'm looking forward to that day. I think it's been exactly a year tonight that when we shut down, if I remember right, it was the 16th last year. So
Yes,
it was way too long, and I wish we could have opened. But I think we've done a good job in keeping people safe here without jeopardizing the ability of the public to do the things they have to do at town hall. So I mean, my opinion would be, I agree with the idea of when we turn green, we open up, or whenever everyone gets vaccinated. But I wanted to put it out to the board and see what they thought.
Now, John, the vaccinated part, what if an employee opts not to be vaccinated? So then we just wait around and not open until they're vaccinated? Like, not everybody is going to be vaccinated. I mean, they're hoping 75% of Americans will be vaccinated, but I know plenty of people that will not, get vaccinated. So I don't know if I support that part, but
that's true. And what another thing that came up in discussions is that what if we go back up to yellow? Do we shut down? Again, it could be mercurial. We were doing really well in I think it was late September, early October. I mean, we were in a good spot as a town, and then all of a sudden we had that huge spike. We had to shut everything down again. So I know the state is loosening things up next Monday. I think they're going to be lifting the moratorium on 10 people in a room. So theoretically, we could meet again like we were back in December, back in here in the room where I am now. Yeah, with several of those ideas came up, and that is correct. How would we know if people have been vaccinated? Go around, are they going to tell me? You don't have to. Why would you tell anyone? I don't know. So perhaps the better idea would be to hinge on the color that the Department of Public Health gives the town.
yeah, I like that idea. What do you guys think? Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a slippery slope on the old vaccination. Then you're getting into HIPAA. How are you going to get people to prove that they got vaccinated? And people that don't want to get vaccinated, I think that's probably going to be an area of the law that will be challenged by other employers, but I definitely don't want to be a front runner and having employees challenge us on that. And I would defer to people in their good judgment on whether they should get vaccinated. But I guess I like the idea of the 3 weeks in the green, and then I think you just kind of have to think about then at what point is there going to be a switchback, if any? Is it if we're then subsequently 2 weeks in the yellow we switch back? I don't know. Whatever that is, I defer to you in your judgment, John. Because I think it's a safety issue for the employees, and I think we've done really well supporting them and keeping them safe, while, as you said, simultaneously making sure there's been no reduction in the services. And I think it's a morale issue too, right? I don't think people want to think we're hanging them out to dry, and certainly at this point they wouldn't feel that way. I would hope, because we've shown that we've got their backs. So I think you just kind of have to think about what is it going to take to roll it back, and then what does it cause to go forward, and then in the interim, as we've been closed to the public, what are we doing with that extra 4 hours that people would be working on a Tuesday night? Are they making it up during the week, or how is that working? Do you know?
So they have not been working that unless they're attending a meeting or something like that, but they still been getting their full pay. The idea was that we were going to be putting that money towards CARES Act reimbursement, and we've been totaling that up since then. But they have not been working those a Tuesday night, but they have been getting their full salary.
But the CARES Act will pick up that difference there?
I believe so, yes. That's what we've been doing, yes.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to just echo what Laura just said. I think 3 weeks in the green, I think that would be acceptable. And then if we do 2 weeks in the yellow to close down again, I just want to remind people, everyone goes, well, the schools are open. You go to the supermarket, town hall isn't a wide open space. We have narrow hallways that are 4 feet wide. And, there's no way to really do one directional operations in town hall. So when people say, well, everyone else is open, so shouldn't town hall, I just want to remind folks that town hall is a small building. Obviously we want our employees' health and safety to be number one, and that's the way to go forward. So I think if we do 3 weeks in the green, I think we should open. And, I asked John last week to kind of take an informal poll, which he just told us he did. And it seems like that's the consensus, that everyone feels comfortable along those lines. So I would say let's move forward in that direction.
Anyone else? So do you guys want to authorize the town administrator to open up town hall 3 weeks after green? Is that what we're saying here?
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Jim?
I'm sorry, Kenny, can we just amend that? Because I think the important part, because I don't want to empower him to open up after 3 weeks of green and then not give him, direction on when he can roll it back, just in case we don't meet while that's all happening. So it was 3 weeks in the green to open, 3 consecutive weeks in the green to open, and then 2 weeks consecutively yellow for John to roll it back.
Okay, that's fine. Jim?
Aye.
Wes? I might have already went to you, I apologize.
Wes says aye.
Okay, Laura?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Okay, and I'm an aye. Okay, thank you. All right, next up, appoint the following members to the 200th anniversary committee with terms to expire 12/31/21. My first question is, what are we doing with this committee? Does anyone know? Go ahead, Wes.
Not that Wes honestly knows, but I suppose after my initial, why are we doing this? There is money, there are goods that have to be dealt with. So I suppose we do need the committee to at least get through the financial part of it to end the years.
Okay, all right. That's
Also, Kenny,
go ahead, Laura.
Kenny, also, I know, at least the last I spoke to everybody, they were thinking of having some of the events that they had scheduled for 2020 kicked into 2021 or 2022, depending upon how things flow. because quite a bit of
Okay.
planning went into things like the Home Days Parade. You know, there's a whole bunch of different things. Like there was going to be a concert with Kristen Merlin. You know, I mean, literally, it was going to be every month something major happening. And so I think the thought process was to resuscitate all of those things and have them held, you know, in the future. So therefore, would need a committee to pull that off.
Okay, good. You guys answered my questions. Thank you. So I'm looking for a motion to appoint everyone that's in this committee on the agenda here. You want me to read to the names?
Mr.
So
Chair, I
moved.
think John might have something.
I just want to say that they're sorry, Mr. Chairman, I think they're planning a fall parade if it's possible. So I think that's one of the things that had come up with in discussions with Greer. So that may be why they want to get rolling.
Yeah, no, that's good. I was just curious because I haven't heard anything. So, no, that's good.
We need celebrations. So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, Jim.
Aye.
Wes.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay. Accept the following resignations. Gary Bannock, Education Fund Committee.
So moved with regret. I might add, Mr. Bannock single-handedly managed to exhume this from, you know, the defunct committee grave and get some traction. So I'm kind of bummed out to hear that he's resigning, but I am grateful for his service.
Did we get a second? I apologize.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Jim.
Aye.
Wes.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
And Matt.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, next up, accept February donations. Looking for a motion to accept the donations. You guys look
So
at it?
moved. Yep, so
Second.
moved.
Okay, Jim.
Some.
Wes.
Aye.
Wes
Laura.
says aye.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, approve one-day liquor license for Colleen Griffith, Aaron TN, April 18th, 2021, bridal shower.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Jim.
Aye.
Wes.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
And Matt.
Aye.
It's good to see weddings coming back. Approve, next up, oh, bless you. Approve dollar for scholars request to use McQuon School parking lot on Saturday, April 10th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Matt. Jim.
Aye. And Michelle said, thank you, Kenny, for God blessing her when she sneezed.
Michelle, you're very welcome. Wes.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Okay, and I'm an aye. All right, next up, accept event items donations to Camp Kewaunee by Laura Fitzgerald Kemet and Patricia Spitz.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded by Matt. Jim.
Aye.
Wes.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Laura.
I think it's okay for me to vote on
Yeah,
this.
you're fine.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So thank you to both of you. Okay, old business, FY22 budget update. John, you want to brief us to what you've been working on?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the last time we met, there have been two major changes. And one of them was the school budget came in, obviously, at actually, there's been three changes. There's been a $461,038 increase in the operating budget of the Whitman Hanson Regional School District from what I had put in as a placeholder back in January. And also on the transportation assessment, that went up $332 of what I had budgeted back in January. But on the good side, we finally got a group insurance number for fiscal year 22, and that was a $125,114 decrease. They ended up being a lot less there. The health group is digging into their in essence their free cash or their fund balance in order to lower the assessment to the member communities in fiscal year 22. So the net of all that, school operating assessment, transport assessment from the school going up, and the group insurance going down, and all the others that had come up before, is that net change of $335,238 up. So right now the budget is in a deficit of $2.3 million. I'm rounding the numbers off. So what I had asked the department heads in the department head meeting today was to I thought of a scenario of what would happen if they went back to fiscal year 20's funding level. And obviously you can't go back on fiscal year 20 on things like debt. The debt is the debt. We can't go back on that. But I was talking about salaries and expenses, and capital outlay as well. If you were to go back to fiscal year 20's debt level, I'm sorry, salaries and expenses and capital outlay level, what would that mean to your department? So I'm asked everyone to give me the ramifications of doing that, and I'll have that for next Tuesday. Again, in a round number, that's about $875,000 worth of savings. A lot of people have asked me, well, what are you going to cut when if the override were to fail? I wanted to see what would happen, what the ramifications of going back to fiscal year 20 and what would happen in each department. I mean, I could dictate to the amount to the department heads, but I want people that are working with it day in and day out to they know their budget. They'll be able to go through it and give me what will happen, and whatever is going to happen, I'll bring that forward next week, and people can see what if we were to go to that level, these following things will happen. Again, that's I just read it's $2.3 million, and that's if we were to do that, that's only $875,000. But it's a third of it, and I think it's a worthwhile idea to pursue. So that's where we're going right there. I'm not saying that we're going to be able to cut that, but at least I'll know. Everyone wants to know what will happen when things get cut. Well, I'll have a list of things that would happen just with that cut alone, which would be a third. So, and that's all I have for an update.
Good. Anybody have any questions for John on the budget? Seeing none. Okay, thanks, John. Update and review outstanding Selectmen controlled articles. You guys have a chance to look at those.
So that's me again, Mr. Chairman. I believe last meeting, I was asked to come up with all of the articles that are controlled by the Selectmen and what's been happening. This is so we could go through them all and see what's going on with them. I came up with a one pager with all 7 of them. So I mean, we can go through them. I think the idea was to go through them all, see what we should do with them, and so then I'll have a better sense of going forward where they could go. Will they be turned back? Will they be put to use in some other article, or will they just be allowed, or will they be used for the purpose they were supposed to be used for, but just simply hasn't got done yet?
Yeah, so why don't we review these, and then we'll bring it up for next week, John, to kind of dissect them, because I have it in front of me, but honestly, I haven't had a chance to go through them all.
Okay.
If that's all right.
So Selectman Dyer's comments earlier about the tree one, that's one of the ones that that we had talked about earlier, but then he wants to change to allow it to go back to free cash or some other use.
Okay, so that's not on here, right? I don't see it on here.
Yes, it is. It's number 5.
Oh,
So
okay.
That's
Gotcha.
a $10,000. Again, real quickly, if you see, I believe, I'm scanning it real quickly here, but I believe 6 out of the 7 articles have had no activity.
Okay, all right. Matt, did you have a question, Matt?
I just wanted to also give an update too, just so folks, when they're reviewing it, can say, okay, that's what's going on there. All the articles for Plymouth County Hospital, I know there really hasn't been much activity with that, but we've just been in the planning stage to finally pull the trigger to start getting the engineering plans. You don't want to send out a draft to the engineers and then go back and then change your mind. So any of the Plymouth County stuff, we're just kind of being conservative before sending things to the engineer, but we have sent some stuff out to the engineers. We're just waiting back to hear from them on that stuff. So anything with Plymouth County, I'm just going to ask us to be more patient with.
So John, looks like number 4 and number 7, Matt is saying that they're good. Okay.
Okay.
That's two less that you'll have to address for next week. Yes, Laura, go ahead.
John, I'm just wondering, between now and our next meeting, is there any way you can check in with Conservation and Board of Health on number 1 and number 2? You know, it's essentially to kill the algae in the ponds, and whether we've got a plan for that. I know Josh Cutler in the past has been able to get us state funding for that, which may be part of the reason why this money went unspent. But just, you know, if we could just get a sanity check from them on whether they think it's needed, because I think that's probably where this came from originally.
So I have met with Frank, our Concom agent, Frank Scallinger, on number 1 and number 2. So number 1 is we may have already paid the bill, and we may not. We have an outstanding bill right now for a similar amount, and we may have. There may be issues with that I'm working with him on. We may not have to pay another amount of. If you look on the 3rd line down on number 1, we paid Pembroke in 2019 $9,500 out of this article. There's a similar amount pending for fiscal year, for actually calendar year 20. We may not owe that. There seems to be confusion on that. So I have talked with him on that, and he's working on that one. On number 2, I know that we've been working with Halifax on Monpont Pond, and he's working on that as well, I guess.
All right, so you can give us like definitive answers maybe next week, or?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thanks.
Okay, good. All right, thanks, John.
Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jim.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. John, on that Odom Pond, I can call you tomorrow on it. That was paid. I met with the treasurer collector of Pembroke and the Pembroke town administrator back before you got here. And that was pretty much settled. But, you know, I can give you a call tomorrow and we'll go over it. I definitely don't want to double pay it. But there was an agreement with Pembroke that was signed years ago, and we never kept our end of the bargain, and that's why it was that $9,200 or $9,500 bill that we got. Basically, they just wanted everything caught up, and that's exactly what we did. So there should be a zero balance on that.
Thanks for that, Jim. Okay, next up, performance evaluation for the town administrator. So I'm going to table this because the last meeting we were supposed to get the evaluations that were sent out back to Greer, but I failed to do that in a timely manner to allow Greer enough time to gather the information together so we could get it out to you guys so we could discuss that. So
Oh,
I
really?
apologize. I apologize to the board, and I will do better next time.
Well, you should see if the real Mr. Mitchell can get it in on time then.
That's
Oh,
a
you
good
didn't
one.
think that one was coming back at you?
So, Mr. Stanbrook, I apologize. So, next up, approved minutes for July 21st, 2020 revised, and also August 11th, 2020. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Mitchell, what was revised? I didn't see a black line, and if there was, I apologize. I just wasn't quite sure what was being revised.
Just, Mr. Chairman, the attendance for that meeting was what was revised. I think that's what Gary is telling me.
Okay. Okay, so moved.
I have attendance, me, Matt, Laura, Jim, and Wes. All looks like all of us did. I don't know, maybe before I didn't say that. Is that the right? No, that's it. That's the other one. I apologize. That was on the 11th. Is there any more questions on those 2 minutes? Did I get a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Roll call. Jim,
Aye.
Wes,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, next up, the town administrator report. Mr. Stanbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the February 23rd, 2021 Board of Selectmen meeting, the board authorized me to sign payroll, vendor, and withholding warrants on behalf of the board through March 31st, 2021. I signed 12 warrants on behalf of the Board of Selectmen since the last meeting. If the chairman will allow me, I don't want to read all 12 of them, but if the board wants me to, I will. I have in the past actually read the warrant and the amount.
Yeah, it's okay. They're all in the Dropbox because I saw them all on Sunday. So you don't have to read them all.
Okay, thank you. New business, the Hanson Town Administrator Special Act requires me to give the board an update on all outstanding legal matters. I've given my monthly update via letter to you. It's in your box here at Town Hall, but it will not be a public document. It may contain personnel, union bargaining, or health-related issues that cannot be discussed in public session, but I have complied with my requirements under the Act. Also, the monthly financial report, the Special Act, Town Administrator Special Act requires me to render a monthly financial report to the board. Town Accountant Todd Hassett has been giving me that report monthly. I've passed along that latest report to you through February 28th. If you have any questions on the report, please let me know. I'll forward them to Todd, or I'll be able to answer them for any clarification. Excuse me, on snow and ice update. As of right now, we have about $9,800 remaining in the budget. But we do have some outstanding invoices for, including salt and sand deliveries. So when all is said and done, knock on wood, if it doesn't snow, we'll either have a very small surplus in that line item, or at the very least, a small deficit in the snow and ice budget for that year. So I just want to say, kudos to Interim Highway Director Kurt McLean and Jameson Shea for what, and the other members of the Highway Department for the great work during this winter. They did a great job. I received a letter from our building, a building inspector, a building commissioner and a zoning enforcement officer. I'll get his title properly said. Robert Curran, that he is seeking retirement. He sent a letter to the board, and he says after over 12 years of working as the town of Hanson's building commissioner and zoning enforcement officer, I've decided that it's time for me to retire. My last day of official work in the town of Hanson will be Thursday, April 29th, 2021. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for all the cooperation and support you've shown me over the years. I've enjoyed working with the town, the community, and my coworkers. I will miss these aspects of the job immensely. I'll be happy to help any way I can to find a replacement for the position. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. I want to publicly thank Mr. Curran for his 12 years of service. and just, we're going to be looking for a new person. Actually over 12 years. So we're going to be looking for a new building commissioner and zoning enforcement officer. That came in since our last meeting. Also with the Chapter 90, that's highway funds distributed by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, or MassDOT. We have received a letter from the governor and the lieutenant governor that our funding will be based on a $200 million statewide Chapter 90 bill, and our funding for will be around $322,585, which is slightly above what we got last year, but around the same amount. Again, it's a formula that the state uses in order to they bond a large amount and then they break it down to the individual cities and towns based on their formula.
Excuse me, John.
Sure, go ahead.
Can we just circle back to Bob Curran? As you know,
sorry, go ahead.
he works part-time for us and part-time for Whitman. Is it our intention to work with Whitman on trying to get his replacement, or what? I don't know if he's retiring from Whitman. I'm assuming he is, but I don't know that.
He is not retiring from Whitman. He's going to be working still part-time, I believe, in Whitman for another year. Again, I'm not sure on that, but he is not retiring from Whitman. So we would have a part-time position, or if we were to rearrange the departments in town, we could, depending on what we would have to do. There's several options that are available that I'm going to explore.
Thank you.
I asked that question earlier, Laura, same exact question.
All set? And then, okay, sorry. And then finally, I received, you received a letter from Kathleen Clark at the Hanson Housing Authority. And I'm going to paraphrase it in the interest of time, but she wanted to, well, it's difficult to paraphrase, but she will, she wants to, this isn't the right letter. So,
is that the one we're talking
it's about low income, yeah, I don't have the right letter for it, but it was about low income affordable housing. I can give you an update more on that in my town administrator report next week.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, and also for coming attractions for next week will be our next meeting is March 23rd, 2021 at 6 o'clock via the GoToMeeting platform that we're on now. And the highlights will be voting on articles, and then we'll be talking about town meeting logistics. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Coming attractions, I like that. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Jim,
Aye.
Wes,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Thanks. Good job, guys. We had a lot of work.
Thank you.
And thanks, Bob Curran, for your 12 years plus of service.